What seemed like a dream is turning into a nightmare. Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, is experiencing his worst start to a season with Ferrari, and today I'll tell you why this could be the beginning of the end. Saudi Arabia 2025 season. The Jeddah circuit, known for its speed and technical demands, witnessed one of the most disconcerting performances of Lewis Hamilton's career. In his second race with Ferrari, the 7-time world champion crossed the finish line in 7th place, completely disconnected from the competitive pace expected of him. What was most alarming was not only his finishing position, but also the abysmal gap to his teammate Charles Leclerc, who managed to climb onto the podium in 3rd place. 31 seconds separated the two Ferraris at the end of the race, both finishing on the same lap. That gap was the largest between any duo of teammates who finished the race within the same lap, and that single statistic became the symbol of a much deeper crisis. What was supposed to be a glorious new chapter in Hamilton's legend began as a story of frustration, uncertainty, and failure to adapt. And it wasn't an isolated incident. This performance adds to a string of weekends in which Hamilton has lagged behind, showing no clear signs of improvement or progress in his understanding with the SF-25. For Ferrari fans, for the British drivers' fans, and for the entire Formula One community, the big question now is, what's going so wrong with Lewis Hamilton? Ferrari put all its chips on his signing. Images of Lewis strolling through Maranello, greeting factory workers, promised a rebirth. F1's most iconic team and one of the most successful drivers of all time finally together. But after just 5 races, that dream seems to have faded. What promised to be a legendary partnership is on the verge of becoming a historic disappointment. And this is where the real drama begins to unfold. Because this isn't just a bad weekend. It's a pattern. A structural problem. A legendary driver facing not only a car he can't understand, but an internal crisis that could mark a turning point in his career. When Lewis Hamilton signed with Ferrari, the news shook the motorsport world. The combination of the most successful driver of his generation with the most iconic team in Formula One generated an unprecedented wave of enthusiasm. During his first visits to Maranello, Hamilton appeared relaxed, smiling, and excited. He posed next to the SF-25, greeting engineers, mechanics, and management. It seemed like the perfect start to a new era. But the excitement was short-lived. Barely 5 races later, that atmosphere of hope has transformed into tension, frustration, and confusion. Hamilton's recent statements reflect not only a driver who isn't performing as expected, but a human being who is emotionally affected by what he experiences inside the car. It's a painful, almost cinematic transformation, from initial enthusiasm to the current emptiness. After the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Hamilton made no secret of his mood. Visibly dejected, he spoke into one of the most devastating statements of his career. "There's really nothing to take away from these 3 weeks except that I'm slow." It was a raw, unfiltered confession that reflects not only his dissatisfaction with the results, but also a total disconnect with the car. A statement like that, coming from someone who has won 103 Grand Prix and 7 world titles, doesn't go unnoticed. It's the testimony of someone who doesn't recognize himself behind the wheel. The SF-25, meanwhile, is not a slow car. Leclerc has shown that, in competent hands, it can be in the top 3. Hamilton makes this clear when, in another of his most honest statements, he admits, "Clearly, the car is capable of finishing 3rd, so I can't blame the car." This statement is revealing because, far from looking for excuses, he acknowledges that the problem lies in his own ability to adapt. And this is where the crisis deepens. Because it's not simply about changing the car's setup or modifying the rear wing. It's about rebuilding the connection between driver and machine. And that, in Formula One, is much more complex than it seems. The difference with his time at Mercedes is stark. There, Hamilton developed perfect synergy with the engineers, the data, and the sensations for over a decade. He knew the car as if it were an extension of his own body. But now, at Ferrari, everything is new. Every turn, every corner, every reaction of the car is different. And that disconnect, so far, hasn't improved, it's gotten worse. Hamilton himself hints at this when he states that there hasn't been a single second during the last 3 races in which he has felt comfortable. The pressure, the media criticism, the constant comparison with Leclerc, and the fact that he still hasn't found clear answers are pushing him into a dangerous spiral. What began as a redemption story has become an emotional and technical puzzle. And the most alarming thing is that, for now, there is no solution in sight. For years, Lewis Hamilton built his legacy with a technique that seemed infallible. His style was based on braking hard and late, taking advantage of every meter of track, entering the apex aggressively and exiting with surgical precision. It was this approach that led him to dominate an entire era with Mercedes. But that same style has now become his biggest obstacle. Ferrari's SF-25 doesn't respond in the same way. One of the main points of contention between Hamilton and his new car is the engine braking system. And while it may sound technical or minor to the casual fan, in Formula One it represents a fundamental difference between success and failure. After the Bahrain Grand Prix, the Briton put it bluntly, Ferrari's engine braking system is completely different from what he had experienced in his 12 seasons with Mercedes. And that difference isn't limited to a matter of feel. It's a complete transformation in the way the car decelerates, transfers weight, and enters corners. Sources close to the paddock, such as Racing News 365, explain that Ferrari's system is much more invasive. That is, it intervenes more aggressively when the driver releases the accelerator, generating resistance that alters traditional braking distribution. For Hamilton, accustomed to cleaner, more direct control, this means having to readjust his braking times, his corner entry, and, above all, his way of reading the track. In practice, this means he can't brake where he always has. He can't attack the corner in the same way. And that affects his entire driving flow. Every time he tries to brake like he did with Mercedes, the car doesn't respond as expected. The result is a constant loss of confidence, mental exhaustion that accumulates with each lap, and performance that simply doesn't appear. And the most worrying thing is that this problem has no easy solution. It's not about changing a wing or adjusting a suspension. The engine braking system is deeply integrated with the car's software, with the power unit, with the very philosophy of the car. Ferrari could, in theory, make radical modifications to the software to smooth out its behavior. But those modifications would be neither quick nor guaranteed, and could compromise the car's overall balance. Therefore, the only realistic path left is for Hamilton to adapt, to modify his style, to break with the habits that made him a champion and learn to live with a machine that demands something completely different. And that is a daunting task for any driver, but even more so for one who has perfected his style for 2 decades at the highest level. Hamilton knows this. He said it. Everyone has their own style, and mine has worked for me for many years, but now I need a drastic change. And that change isn't just technical. It's psychological, emotional, and identity-based. Because he's having to rebuild himself as a driver, at a time when many expected him to simply continue his legacy. This is the real core of the problem. It's not a broken part. It's not a bad strategy. It's a collision between 2 ways of understanding driving. And from that clash, from that tension, one of 2 things will emerge. Either a new version of Hamilton capable of taming the SF-25, or a gradual separation that could mark this time at Ferrari as a disappointment. Ferrari didn't show up to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix empty-handed. In a championship as tight as the 2025 one, every technical detail counts, and the Scuderia brought a series of improvements to the SF-25 specifically designed to meet the demands of the Jeddah street circuit. But these updates, rather than bringing clarity, ended up underscoring an uncomfortable truth. Not all drivers can take advantage of the advancements in the same way. The modifications focused on the rear of the car. Ferrari introduced a new rear wing with a redesigned main profile, a revised upper flap, and an evolution of the beam wing, the small lower wing that manages airflow at the rear of the car. The goal was clear: to reduce aerodynamic drag and maximize straight-line efficiency without compromising cornering balance. The Jeddah circuit rewards top speed and punishes excessive downforce. Ferrari responded with a thinner, flatter version of the beam wing, seeking to allow the SF-25 to reach higher speeds on the straight sections of the track without losing stability in high-speed corners. They also subtly modified the trailing edge of the rear wing's upper flap, reducing the chord in the center to reduce downforce without eliminating lateral grip. Technically, it was a clever solution. In theory, this new package offered a significant advantage in terms of aerodynamic balance. And indeed, Charles Leclerc's times confirmed this. The Monegasque found performance from the first session, managed to quickly adjust his setup, and extracted the car's full potential. He took the podium. He validated the team's technical direction. But Hamilton experienced a different story. With the same technical foundation, his car was behaving erratically. It wasn't a matter of power. It wasn't a mechanical failure. It was a matter of sensations, of connection with the car. The new aerodynamic package didn't offer Hamilton the balance he needed to feel comfortable. Each lap became a fight against a car that reacted differently than he expected. Engineers know this. 2 cars may have the same parts, but they will never be identical if the drivers driving them aren't. And in this case, the difference between Leclerc's and Hamilton's driving styles became decisive. While one took advantage of the new features to be more aggressive, The other was forced to drive defensively, trying to interpret reactions he didn't fully understand. Even within the team, technical decisions weren't unified. Both drivers tried different configurations, searching for answers. And while Leclerc found the key, Hamilton was trapped in a setup that offered neither stability nor confidence. The same improvements that lifted one sank the other. This stark contrast left one conclusion clear: updates alone don't guarantee performance. They need to be understood, adapted, and integrated. And if the driver fails to feel in tune with the changes, they become irrelevant, even counterproductive. For Hamilton, this was a painful reminder that technology, no matter how advanced, is no substitute for trust. The improvements in Jeddah exposed a fracture that goes beyond the technical. It's a philosophical gap, one of adaptation, of understanding between a legendary driver and a car that doesn't yet speak his language. Now the question remains, with no easy answers, no guarantees. Is Lewis Hamilton really in a position to reverse the situation? Or are we witnessing the beginning of the twilight of one of the most illustrious careers in the history of Formula One? The data calls this into question. The telemetry underscores it. His body language betrays it. The performance isn't showing, and the answers have yet to arrive. Ferrari, meanwhile, continues to move forward with Leclerc, building results, adding podiums, consolidating his place in the championship. And Hamilton continues to search for a way to fit into an environment that wasn't built for him. But this isn't just a story of numbers or grid positions. It's a story of transformation, of resilience, of pride. Because if there's anyone in the paddock who knows how to rewrite his destiny against all odds, it's Lewis Hamilton. He's done it before. He's done it when everyone gave up on him. And now, once again, he faces the most brutal challenge of his career. Formula One doesn't wait. The calendar moves on. The races are unforgiving. And while some are already beginning to write the final chapters of their legend, others, like him, could be plotting one of the most unexpected comebacks in the sport. But only time will tell. And now I want to know your opinion. Do you think Hamilton will be able to adapt and return to competing at the highest level with Ferrari? Or will this season be a warning that his time at the top is over? Leave your analysis in the comments. Read what others think, debate, participate. This is the space for those who live Formula One intensely. And if you're as passionate about this sport as we are, subscribe to the channel. Here we analyze what others barely mention. We go beyond the podium. And this is just the beginning. Because in Formula One, the impossible is just the starting point.